Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Akane-banashi Season 1, because we've already learned that Season 2 was coming. It is based on a manga and was done by Studio Zexes. And I will say, starting off right at the beginning, this is potentially anime of the season for me. This is potentially the show of the season. There is a lot of competition though. It was a season with a lot of really, really good anime, and this one started off a little bit lower on my list, but grew on me as the season went along, and by the end, those last 3 episodes, it's hard for me to not say that those aren't like the episodes of the season. Those are like 3 of the best episodes. They nailed the last quarter of the season. It was so incredibly good. And also, I will say that technically, this is my 11th anime review this year, so I recorded all of my 10 anime that I watched in winter all as one video, and I did that weeks ago, and I haven't posted it yet, so I am sorry about that. So this is technically the 11th, but it's my first review of the spring, and yeah, I will organize this in a way where I really, really, really want to talk about the series, and I like for my reviews to be able to serve as a recommendation for people who haven't watched, so I will talk about anything that I would not consider spoilery first, and then I'll save anything that I would consider spoilery-ish toward the end, so that if you don't want to see that, I would really, really appreciate if you watched on your own. I don't want to ruin it. I want you to be able to experience it yourself. And with that in mind, I'll save anything that I'd consider maybe spoilery-ish that I want to talk about towards the end. So when we start off the show, we start off in episode 1 following Akane's father, Shinta, or I guess Shinta's is his stage name, following him as the main character really for the first episode. And for me, I loved him so much as a main character that it made me worried. Of course, I kind of knew how things were going to end up, just seeing the show from afar and everything, or seeing, the marketing, knowing the manga exists and everything. You kind of figure how things are going to go there, with her being the main character. But when it happened, I loved him so much as a main character that I was like, I'm a little bit worried. Am I going to love Akane as much as I loved Shinta? So that was an early worry, and I think one of the reasons why the show started out a little on the lower end for me is one of my complaints about the first episode, and I think this complaint went away very quickly for me, was in the first episode we focus a lot on him, Akane, and when he's giving his performance we focus a lot on the reactions of the audience, what the audience is thinking, their commentary on it, and we don't actually focus a lot on the Rakugo. We don't actually focus a lot on the performance itself. And that was one of my complaints is I wanted to see more of the performance. And that, I think, quickly went away for me when we started seeing some of Akane's performances, and as we went on, I feel like we focused more and more on the actual performances themselves and how they tie into the characters and the story and what it is Akane needs to work on or learn. Things like that. I think that it was done much, much better. Like at first I was a little worried. I was like, I wish we had more focus on the Rakugo, but very quickly, I would say by like even just 2 or 3 episodes in, I was at the point where it's like, okay, now as an audience member, I get it. I get why Akane loves Rakugo so much. We're seeing more of that. And I guess to interject it here, I loved the way one of the biggest things for me was how the relationship with Shigema was written so well as like this father-child relationship between the mentors, the masters, and their students, and how well the sibling-like relationship of the sibling disciples was written. That was done so well. I loved all of the characters and the relationships and interactions between them. That's something that I think I have the most praise out of, and even other characters outside of that system. I mean, there's the rival characters who were good as well, but I loved the teacher. I think the teacher was such a good character. I really, really loved Jumbo. I wanted to see some more of him. I thought that his relationship with Akane was so good. We didn't see much of her other 2 high school friends, but what we did see was good. Obviously, it's like they they did really well story-wise with just showing us a little bit. But I would have loved even more of Jumbo. I thought that his and Akane's relationship was really, really good. I liked the way that was written too. So all of that is very good, and I think that's about all I could talk about without talking about the last 3 episodes, which, again, if you haven't watched yourself, I would tell you to go watch yourself. So the last thing I'll do before talking about those last 3 episodes is usually, for any of my reviews, one thing that I do just to like put myself on the spot is I'll make myself think of who was my favorite character, waifu, and relationship, because that's usually what I do when I do the anime awards or whatever. So on the spot, thinking about that, who my favorite character was is difficult, because early on it was Kyoji. I loved Kyoji early on, but we didn't see as much of him later, I feel like. And then later on, we didn't see as much of him in a serious sense earlier on, but by the end, I was like, oh man, I really love Shiguma. I think Shiguma is incredible. He's so good. Like I said, I like the teacher as well. I thought she was a very good character. But I think that while early on, I might have liked Kyoji a bit more than Akane, and while later on, Shiguma might have been hitting me in my heart more than Akane. I just think that she was such a good main character throughout that I would say my favorite character is Akane. And I also love another thing about the way she was written is that Akane is really good at Rakugo. She is really competent, and the other characters know that. And in a lot of anime, a lot of manga, when a character is written to be super, super competent, it's like, okay, well, they don't have very many struggles, or their struggles aren't written that well. But I like things like, setting her up with the challenge of doing Jugemu at the tournament. Setting her up with these things and making her learn on her own and visit other people, or even the way that she learned from Kyoji earlier on. It's like she is really good at the very physical sense of Rakugo, the very immediate thing. She is somebody who's not just a prodigy, but she's been watching people and copying people ever since she was a little kid. But because she is so good at it, she has her own lessons she needs to learn. She has her own struggles because of that. It's not that she doesn't have struggles because she's so talented, but she's so talented that she kind of has her own struggles because of it. And that was one of the things with Jugemu. If Shiguma had told her what she needed to learn here, then she would have just said, oh yeah, I can brute force that because she's talented. She's been able to just learn things. So putting her on the spot by not giving her all the answers and having her seek out the answers on her own gives her more perspective. And I like the way that she was written as a character that way. Best girl, waifu. Definitely the teacher. I think her name was Machiko. Teacher, best girl. She was great. I really liked her character as well, the way she was written. And it'd be cool if she stuck around more in the story, but I don't know exactly where she would be in the story from here on out, since Akane has. I guess, again, if you want to dip out, spoiler alerts and all, people would have already probably. Now that she is graduated, I wonder how the teacher would continue showing up in the story at all. But I thought she was a really good character and I appreciated her. Maybe she just sticks around because now she continues to go and she just likes Rakugo now, in addition to wanting to be supportive of a student like she was doing before. But also, there was one funny line with her that I thought about too, where it was Guriko and Kogama, I think. And Guriko is also a character I really, really liked and wish we got more of. Where they were like, hey, you're saying this in front of a teacher or something like that. But I was thinking, I don't think I know how old the teacher is, but I would think somewhere in her 20s. Meanwhile, all of the sibling disciples, I think they range from like, I don't know how young the youngest is, but most of them seemed like mid to late 20s, even into early 30s. So with that in mind, it's like she's probably, you're saying in front of a teacher, she's probably younger than some of you. But I liked all of that. And then best relationship, I there's almost a part of me that wants to say Isho and Akane because of the tension there and how well that was written as a sort of antagonist protagonist sort of relationship. But I will just say Akane Shigema because that last episode especially had me really, really emotional. I thought that was so good. But with that aside, I kind of got that out of the way early, talking about those last 3 episodes. So the challenge was to win the tournament doing Jugemu like twice, doing it the first time, and she did it just based on her own skills. Just like I said, the physical side of Rakugo, where she's just talented. She can nail the quick diction and everything, and put on a good, simple performance. And then we get to the second Jugemu performance, and what she learned and the perspective she needed getting into the character's shoes was to choose a name that long. It's a funny, silly, goofy story that most of these people in the audience will know, but what she needed to learn was to give somebody a name that long, you have to really love them. A lot of love has to go into that. A lot of care has to go into that. And that's what she shows off there. And throughout the performance, it's so good. You're drawn in. And we start the performance at, I think, like the end of episode 9 and continue it throughout episode 10. And because we heard from Koguma earlier on, in the original, his name is so long that he drowns in the river. So we're expecting that the whole time. At least I was viewing it. I was expecting the whole time. It's like, okay, she's going with that telling of the story, and that's the emotion she's building, and that's the twist she's bringing to the audience. But then in the end, when she turns that even into a punchline of, it was taking so long that I saved myself, it's so good because the emotion and what you get from that emotion, knowing where you think it's going and knowing what would have happened if she was just like, okay, yeah, he died. You get that. You get all of that. But then the twist put on it is adding her own flavor, her own personality, much like Karaku was the name of the cup. I'm forgetting his name. The guy who looks like Shinji from Bleach. But much like him, putting your own spin on something. So we got that, and we got all of the emotions, but then still ended on a surprise happy ending, and still get the feel-good feeling of the story ending in a positive sense. That side of things was just so extremely well done. That episode, I think, is the best episode of anime all season for me. It's so well written. And then after that, we get the episode where she gets to talk to Isho, she gets to confront him, and once again, it's incredibly well done because she kind of gets it. He's not like, well, he's still a jerk. He's not some evil guy who just did it on a whim or did it to flex his power and influence or whatever. And she gets it. He confronts her with her rose-tinted view of her father. She looked up to her dad. She thought that he could do no wrong and all. But Isho's like, he wasn't doing the best. He fumbled his intro, and then the crowd was into it, but mostly because they were cheering him on because he was nervous. Is that somebody you promote to master off of that performance? And Akane still is behind her dad, but now I like what Jumbo said in, I think it was the finale, you can see how you've grown from a Rakugoka's daughter into a Rakugoka yourself. That was so good. But she, now as somebody who is a Rakugoka, she is somebody who now has that experience, who has that perspective, and now she can look at her dad's performance being confronted by Isho when she was the one confronting him and be like, I do see those mistakes. And she really appreciates that he cares about the craft. He cares about the art. And she leaves there being like, I disagree with you. I disagree with your outcome, the results you got, your final verdict on my father. I disagree with what you decided to do with those students. I disagree, but I appreciate that it wasn't out of nowhere, because now it's like, okay, I can prove you wrong. You're somebody who clearly actually cares. It wasn't just for nothing, and because your reasons were good, that doesn't really kill my motivation to prove you wrong. That doesn't tarnish her view of her father changes in that she can see the flaws now, but it doesn't change her view in that she thought that his Rakugo was good, that his art was good. So that was incredibly well done. And then in the finale, we spend so much of the finale on these characters and their relationships, and they're so very good. And the big one that we spend a ton of time with is multiple scenes of Shigema just going on a walk, having flashbacks to all the time that he spent with Akane. You have like the sunset and the sunrise, which of course the red of the sunrise, I think it was why her parents named her Akane, how they got the name from. And we had just spent episodes learning what you needed to learn. I'm getting emotional just thinking about this. We spent so much time learning that what you needed to feel about the characters in Jugemu was how much love goes into naming somebody. And a big thing was, okay, when she's becoming an actual apprentice now, what is he going to name her? And we have, again, him thinking of her entire childhood where he's been sort of this extra father figure, a bit like a grandfather figure toward her, and has been mentoring her since she's been a little girl. And we see how much love goes into him finding a name for her. And at least for right now, sticking with what she would want, because he knows her well enough to know what she would want. And again, with, like I said, the visuals of the sunset and the sunrise, sticking with Akane the same as what her parents went with. I just think that I was tearing up and so emotional multiple times in the finale. Like I said about breaking down these last 3 episodes, they were incredible. They were so good. It's hard to not say, like, it's between this and Nippon Sangoku, I think, for best anime of the season. But this just had such a good last quarter. It's hard to not say that this was the best. Those last 3 episodes are just so amazing. But I think that's all I've got to say about the story. About the production, gorgeous. It didn't need to look this good to still be a great story, but it looked good nonetheless. It was beautiful, really, really well animated, a very good style. I like the character designs a lot. They're not the most exciting and out there character designs, and for my personal preference, I kind of like when art styles and character designs get a little bit out there, get a little bit weird. I kind of like that, just something to differentiate yourself, because I've seen like a million regular ass looking anime people before. So I kind of like when things can do their own little bit of a unique look, but I think this still looked incredibly good. I like the character designs a lot. There's a lot of detail in them. I like the art style a lot. And the animation was just really well done. I think the music, though again, there's just so much competition for how good music and anime was this season. Witch at Atelier was very good. Nippon Sangoku was incredible. I think Agents of the Four Seasons might have had the strongest OST for me, personally. When it comes to, unless I'm forgetting stuff, when it comes to music in the background for anime that I heard, but this was good as well. I think everything here was solid in that sense. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. Usually I like to mention the opening and ending. The opening is so detailed, so very good. And at first I was like, yeah, whatever. But it grew on me and grew on me. And I think it's just such a good opening. Again, the visuals, so detailed, so good. It did not even need to be that good, but it went above and beyond. And as for the ending, I like the song. Might be a hot take here. I've praised literally everything else about the show. I'm not huge into the ending visuals. I was like, okay, with how detailed so many things were, they weren't using AI slop for the end visuals. But there were some shots. There were some bits there. Like with the way the waves and beach look, that I was like, that looks kind of weird. That looks a bit off. Or like there's this one shot where there's like this 3-wheeled car truck little thing up parked by the beach, but the perspective just doesn't look right. when it comes to how close it is to that wall, the perspective feels wrong. So that was always distracting to me when watching through the ending. But yeah, not the biggest fan of the visuals there. And then at the end of every episode, we had the Akane-banashi. I thought that was a great inclusion. It was really fun and enjoyable, and I like the artistry they use when doing it, but also it just gives you all of this bonus info about Rakugo. I loved it. I thought that was very, very good. So I ended up really yapping about this one. Again, no notes or anything. This is just off the top of my head. I did bring up the studio and character names, like I just had the page sitting in the background in case I needed to refer to anything, but I didn't, so I didn't even get to use that. But either way, I guess I could have used it to double check the teacher's name, but I am almost certain it's Machiko. Some long surname, maybe starting with an I or an H. But either way, I guess I'll end things here. I really, really loved it, and I hope you did too. Let me move over to this screen. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this show, my thoughts on it, and all of that. Subscribe for more anime, much more on the channel. I'll cover season 2 whenever it shows up. I think it's actually winter next year, so not even a year's wait until we get season 2. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you want to. If you want to help support the channel by sharing around or dropping a super thanks, that's appreciated. If you want to help support the channel by becoming a member or patron, you get One Piece Bingo a little bit early and you get your name at the end of videos. So just hit join down below to become a member and go to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description to become a patron. Thank you so much to people who are already members and patrons. Thank you to chosen regulars Evan Hawley and Bertie Wooster, Magical Girls DD Ban and Maru, Cheerberton Student, David Lang, Staff Slayer Candidates SG, and Stan Cedar, and Pure Element Pate Ariel. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.